What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like it's actually happening for that MiG Switch, the Nintendo Switch flash cartridge, as it has now gone up for sale online, and the pricing around it is a bit surprising, but we're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about some bad news now following up from a report just a few months ago around a certain retail chain actually discontinuing forms of physical media. And we're also going to be going over VR. Well, certain headset that seems to be catching on quite a bit, and it's not the PSVR 2. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Konami and Metal Gear Solid. We know that they are currently working with Virtuos to create Metal Gear Solid Delta, the remake of Snake Eater. Well, there have been rumors for a long time around a different remake from that series, that for the original Metal Gear Solid. Well, we can see this is posted up. I'm just going to say area because I'd probably mispronounce the entire name of it, but it will be linked down below. Of course, translated over to English. They say their sources are pointing to the remake of the first installment of Metal Gear Solid in production now. In fact, apparently it's been in development for a couple of years, and if Metal Gear Solid Delta, say, comes out maybe at the end of 2024, even in 2025, would be setting up the original Metal Gear Solid remake to follow, probably still make it in this generation, and yeah, that makes sense. If Konami is going back to that trilogy, we'll say, from that PS2 era, it would make sense that they would start with Snake Eater, go up to Metal Gear Solid, and then most likely close out with Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and I assume they're just renaming all of these as they go along. In terms of, like, the timeline's sake, sure, that makes sense, and I'm curious how an original, like the original Metal Gear Solid, would go with a remake. We've seen it with Twin Snakes. What else can they do with it here with some of the newer technology they would see towards the end of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series lifespan? But right now, we got to see how Delta turns out to get any kind of indication as to what we could see from a Metal Gear Solid remake. Also, here's a bit of strange news. We have a Minecraft movie that's coming out, although I'm sure some of you already knew this. It's a live-action movie, and we had one of the actors announce. This is posted up over on Deadline, saying that production is about to get underway on Warner Bros. Vertigo Legendary's feature take on Mojang, Microsoft's Minecraft. And sources are telling us that Jack Black is joining the cast. In fact, Jack Black is joining the Jason Momoa-led movie. This is interesting. Jack Black apparently is playing the role of Steve. All right, it's a live-action Minecraft movie, which already sounds ridiculous, and Jack Black is going to play Steve. I am trying to envision what this is going to look like. It's very difficult right now to picture Jack Black as Steve, and then also a live-action Minecraft movie, apparently with Jason Momoa there, is what interesting. I guess it's worth keeping an eye out just out of curiosity's sake. Even though I'm not really into Minecraft like that, I am wondering what exactly this thing's gonna look like. Oh, and it looks like one of Sony's studios that I am curious what they are working on decided to wake up yesterday. We can see this posted up over on Twitter from Ben Studio just saying, hey, that's enough to get a bunch of people responding and talking about Ben Studio. That's really all it takes to some of these quiet, we'll say, Sony studios right now, as we're basically looking at Sony as, okay, what do you have? Especially for 2024, but even beyond that, for the second half of this generation, Ben Studio is apparently working on a new intellectual property, as they also kind of responded to someone asking how that new IP is going, just simply saying we're cooking. So there you go. Ben Studio could technically announce something, say in 2024, even if it's not coming out for several years. Sony will do that from time to time with their games, just kind of set up what the big picture is over the course of a 3 to 4 year span. And Ben Studio, after Days Gone, very, very interested to see what they're working on. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Switch MiG Switch, the flash cartridge that we've been talking about ever since it was unveiled on Twitter under that Aftertime X account that is already kind of coming under question, maybe with the relationship to the people creating this entire thing. But after it was shown, it blew up online, millions of views, a lot of interest, and now it is officially on sale through pre-orders on at least one distributor. Remember, that was their strategy, was to not sell it directly on their website, but to just provide it to different outlets to sell for them. So they would be a wholesaler, and we would see how this would go in terms of pricing. There was speculation that it could cost north of $100 for the cartridge, the SD card. And then also, remember, there is a dumping tool, a piece of hardware that will allow you to dump your cartridges to, I presume, your PC, and then you would drag and drop them onto an SD card to work with your Switch and that MIG switch cartridge. Well, we can see this posted up. This is over on the first website I've seen that's announced that they will be carrying these, and this is modded hardware, the MIG switch flash cartridge pre-order, $65. Okay, so they have it crossed off from 75. I don't know if it's a promotional thing for pre-orders or they're doing that thing that websites like to do where they just show you a higher price. That's not the actual price, obviously, but they cross it off. Look how cheap it is now. Just try to get FOMO and stuff going there. However, what's interesting about this, it's $65, and I thought, okay, well, that's for just the cartridge itself, the flash card. I would have to buy the dumper separately, right? The hardware lets you dump your games. No, that's included. So, okay, we have the MIG switch dumper and the MIG switch cart all included at $65. Now, this site, I have never done any business with, bought anything from it, so I don't really know what the reliability of this place is. You can let me know in the comments if you have purchased something from this site. They mentioned limited quantities being available, and they will receive the shipment in January. So I can't recommend that you go out and buy this now from this site. Again, I have no experience with it. I did put a pre-order in just because morbid curiosity at this point. I want to see how exactly this thing works. But beyond even the MIG switch cartridge, I'm curious how the MIG switch dumper works, the hardware allowing you to, I guess, just pop your, I assume it's going to look like a little box with a cartridge slot on it, and you just pop the cartridge in and it reads it and dumps a file to your PC. I have a lot of questions around that because we haven't seen any pictures of it. We've just seen pictures of the MIG switch cartridge itself. Now, on top of this, we did have MVG release a video around it, and he did call into question some of the ties to potentially Team Executor and Gary Bowser. But even beyond that, he also went over the process and how he believes they are accomplishing this MIG switch cartridge to be accepted by the Switch, just stock firmware, the whole deal, and also got into some concerns around maybe it getting banned if, say, that same file and certificate kind of made the rounds, whether people are just sharing it online and then everyone just tries to jump online for Mario Kart or something and Nintendo detects the same certificate, or think of it like a unique serial number being used and then Nintendo just goes around banning all these different Switch systems. That is a strong possibility if you decide to share your specific file that you've created from your cartridge. So it's gonna be interesting to see how all this plays out. I still don't know how much this is gonna catch on. I guess technically, if they're able to provide enough of them, even at this price, which is better than I thought it would be, I mean, it could become another R4 cartridge, and it also comes back to how difficult is it to use when it comes to the dumping software, and how widely distributed are these ROM files that apparently need to be repurposed into a certain kind of format. So still a lot of questions around how all this is going to work out, but I have my pre-order in, and we'll see how this turns out, because if I do get one of these in and I'm able to check it out, we'll probably do a video on it and see what we get. Next up, let's talk about some unfortunate news for physical media collectors, or people who like to have the option of physical media, as we did have a report a few months ago in October that Best Buy would be moving away from physical media. And at first, when the report broke, there were concerns that that covered everything: movies, music, games, and then Best Buy came out and confirmed that this was just for the movies side of things, for like the Blu-rays and stuff. You'd walk in, see racks and racks and racks of different movies. Apparently not anymore, and in fact, it looks like as soon as the clock struck midnight, we went into 2024, Best Buy is on it, as we can see this posted up. This is over on Twitter, physical media president saying, Best Buy has started removing all physical media displays today. And in fact, some at Best Buy were chiming in. I guess people who work there and were like, yeah, that's a thing. We're starting to remove these different sections, break down shelving, and clear out floor space where we'd normally have these Blu-ray movies. Or like when a new release would come out, I noticed that they'd have kind of like those cubes, standing cubes out, and they would just have a bunch of copies of that movie just piled in there for 4K Ultra Blu-rays, or just regular Blu-rays and DVDs. all those being gone, that would free up a fair amount of space at the Best Buy near me. And I can only imagine Best Buys that had an even larger focus on movies in different sections. And I'm curious what exactly they're going to fill that space up with, because with these larger retailers, when you clear out that kind of space, you're not just going to leave it empty. You'd put something there. And I don't know, Best Buy does a lot. They have like appliances, the drones, all kinds of camera stuff, obviously TVs. So I'm sure they'll find stuff to fill that void. But the thing that I am recognizing here, and I've seen this come up, right, is you talk about the idea of physical media for games going away eventually, maybe even into next generation, which would start, I still think, 2028, although sounds like Xbox could start earlier than that. Well, the argument's been, there's still movies and there's still music, why would they get rid of games? Well, that argument's kind of gone now, because apparently movies and music and stuff, it's all going away, and games is the only thing left for now. Now, there's also word that Target will be moving in a similar direction here, where movies and music and stuff would start to disappear. And apparently Walmart's been brought up as maybe not only dropping like the movies and stuff, but maybe even Xbox games. There's a lot of question marks right now in the background for physical media as we move more and more towards just an all digital landscape with game and movie and distribution through streaming and I guess cloud-based. But even so, it is much more convenient. I recognize it, even though I'm someone who likes to buy physical media. I see that the younger generation's coming in, and even the older generation is starting to just kind of give in to that convenience. So I'll keep buying my physical media as long as I can, but I also see the writing on the wall currently. So we'll see as we go through the rest of this generation. I guess the good news is Nintendo should keep their physical media going into this generation, starting, I think, at the end of 2024, which should safeguard that side of things at least until, 2031 or 2032, when we revisit their next generation. And who knows where we'll be in 8 years with gaming. Next up, let's talk about a big Ubisoft game that I've become more and more interested in as they were able to show off gameplay around it, and that's Star Wars Outlaws. Well, the question has been, when is it coming out? Because it sort of felt like internally it was pushed back at least half a year. Well, Disney, well, the movie side of things, not as secretive as gaming. Gaming is incredibly secretive, so sometimes it's funny to see the clashing of these two worlds and how one side just doesn't really get the secrecy at all for it. Like, we can see this posted up over on IGN, saying Star Wars Outlaws arrives late 2024. What happened here was Disney had an entire blog post that was shown, kind of just giving us an idea of 2024. All right, what are we looking at here? And again, they've gone on record to talk about all kinds of stuff, of timelines from movies ranging for the next 5 or 6 years or something, giving us roadmaps. So for them to go out and say Star Wars Outlaws, the open world Star Wars game, is set to release later this year, it's probably not a big deal to them. There's yeah, I mean, guys, it's coming out later this year, right? You've told us this, so we're just gonna put it out there. Whereas Ubisoft's hold on, let's circle back, let's fix that. And in fact, Disney did change that, as IGN themselves, they had to reach out to Ubisoft and say, hold on, this says late 2024. It's been updated to a correct, they say, quote unquote, correct release window of just 2024. So this is I'm expecting it late 2024 as well. I think that makes sense for a holiday. Could be September, maybe October, but that just seems like where Ubisoft is going to try to place this game. And again, I am interested in it. To see a Star Wars game that's not just about force powers, lightsabers, it is nice to have that change of pace, and it seems like we're going to have quite a bit to explore here. Ubisoft having it set up with multiple different planets and a lot to do. I'm sure that probably will involve a map and a lot of points all over the place, but I do still enjoy the Far Cry games at times for some of that stuff. But this is one I'll be keeping my eye on, and I guess looking towards the second half of 2024 as Disney just wanted to let us know. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the world of VR, which is still a niche thing, sure, but it is growing. And I feel like right now, the biggest thing that is helping grow VR is actually just like the cheaper VR headsets, the all-in-one headsets. Not as much the PSVR 2 or headsets that rely on a nice gaming computer. It's the more simplified ones that are also more affordable because of that. And in fact, we can see this posted up. This is over on Steam with the charts, but Upload VR did notice this as the MetaQuest 3, which recently came out, is climbing its way up on Steam, 7.74% of people using that headset. But then at the top, it's the Oculus Quest 2. So, I mean, yeah, the Quest 2, while that is an all-in-one device, these are headsets you can still connect to your PC if you would like, but they are also pretty cheap. The Quest 2 has gone down now on Amazon to like $250 or something. And if you already have a gaming PC, if you buy that headset, you can link it with like the cable you can buy for it, or I think they have wireless as well. And then you can play games like Half-Life Alyx or any number of games you can choose from the Steam library. But the thing that to me should really show the direction that VR needs to be going in right now. This is over on XR, and Brad pointed this out on Twitter, showing the best-selling headsets on Amazon in the US over the course of 30 days between, say, November 12th to December 12th, so just ahead of when the holidays really kicked off. And look at that, the MetaQuest 2 absolutely crushing it right now, 100,000 units selling on Amazon. Again, the Quest 2 fell in price, so keep that in mind as we're going through this, with then the Quest 3 and then the Quest 2 256 gigabyte. And then we had to go all the way down to PSVR 2 with 3,000 and 2,000. That depends on kind of the bundle. It comes with Horizon Call of the Mountain, for example. 5,000 though total for PSVR 2 versus, I mean, just absolute crushing MetaQuest lineup here with just significant amounts more. And again, it really comes back to the pricing, with the Quest 2 being significantly cheaper now, and then also the ease of use. Having an all-in-one headset is just easier to sell to people, because if you bought the PSVR 2 for what's basically double that Quest 2, you still have to buy a PlayStation 5. So all in, you're still roughly $1,000, whereas with the Quest 2, it's a quarter of that. You can even come back and look at the Quest 3 that is closer to what the PSVR 2 headset is. You can get a Quest 3, I think with the mid-range one for $500, but you don't need anything else. That's it. It's just kind of the top of the line all-in-one headset that they have at a consumer level. I know there's one that's also geared more towards like the corporate enterprise side, but the Quest 3 is the one that they expect people to buy and use for entertainment purposes. And when you have games like an Asgard's Wrath 2 that I am looking at, I'm interested in that one, and IGN slaps a 10 out of 10 on it, and people are saying it's like the best VR game they've ever played, and it's not on PSVR 2. It's hard to deny that at this point, Meta seems to be taking over that virtual reality space. Even though it's smaller now, there's a chance for the future, like 10, 15 years from now, when these things really shrink down and they could end up being just visors or glasses, that it will be more accepted on a mainstream level, and then Meta's long-term plan would have paid off. But we still have to get there, at least at this time, though. I'll admit, I'm not too surprised looking around when people talk to me about this and say, you know, I'm interested in that Quest more than I am the PSVR 2. It's kind of hard to push back on that right now, looking at the lineup of titles and the support, and again, the ease of use. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're asked, are you expecting the PlayStation 6 or the next Xbox to have disk drives out of the box? 58% say no, 42% say yes. So, you know, I thought about this a bit with Xbox. Let's say they do go next generation, holiday 2026. I kind of feel like that won't have a disk drive. And the fact that they were planning a mid-gen refresh to get rid of the disk drive completely out of the Xbox Series X with was codenamed Brooklyn makes me think that, okay, well, if we go 2 years down the line, we're definitely not having a disk drive to kick off that next generation to push people towards Game Pass subscription or just digital purchases. And if they can jump out ahead of Sony with an all-digital system, maybe they can kickstart that same thing that they fell on their face for with the Xbox One when those digital libraries were being built. Well, if you buy the next-gen Xbox that maybe is significantly more powerful than the PS5 or even the PS5 Pro and opens up to some other groundbreaking feature set, we'll say, well, you're buying digital and you're building up that library that will basically be tethered with you and follow you the rest of the way with Xbox. So I kind of think this is it right now, 2028 or so, when Sony launches their next generation device, and if Microsoft does it in 2026, I don't think there's any more disk drives. And I think Nintendo will continue on with their cartridges as long as they can, but let's face it, if it keeps pushing in the direction of digital, even Nintendo will eventually have to give in. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from MTech, who says, I think everyone expects a new Nintendo system this year. Nintendo's announced a very few new Switch games for 2024, and no major ones. It's really just a matter of timing at this point. I expected they'd announce it last fall for a March 2024 release, like they did with the Switch, but it'll probably be announced around March for an early fall launch. Really hard to tell with them, as they don't play by the same rules as everyone else. I think this is a very awkward time for Nintendo when it comes to having a direct, but then also maybe having to wait until March or April to announce their next system if it is indeed launching fall or holiday 2024, because what do you have at that direct, since you would just be focusing on the current Switch that you know is kind of cycling out as the main focus. They'll still support it over the next couple of years, but let's face it, when they announce that next system, all eyes will be on that, and everyone will kind of forget about the current Switch. So it's going to be an odd thing to navigate here for Nintendo, but hey, if they have Metroid Prime 4 ready to go to close out that February or even early March direct, people will still be pretty excited, I'm sure. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether it's the MIG Switch now going up for pre-order at $65, are you thinking about getting one, and were you a bit surprised at that price point? And then also, what about Best Buy now phasing out physical media for movies and that sort of thing? Are you thinking that games could be coming up here sooner rather than later? And then also, what about the Meta Quest 3, the PSVR 2? Are you thinking about getting either one of those? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.